Before we begin, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell for more amazing videos. Neighbors were confused when a man began to drill holes in his yard, but then they saw the finished product. DIY projects are a great way to stay busy, creative, and to build something spectacular. Although construction projects might take a long time, the results are always worth it. Take the amazing things these four men created, for example. One of them started drilling holes for a summer project. Another was grieving his lost dog, so he built something for his son. Then a grandfather had a desire to create something truly extraordinary, so he did. The last man decided to make something for his four dogs. Keep watching to learn what these men built in their backyards. What better way to spend a hot summer day than lounging out in the backyard by a pool? One man couldn't think of anything better for his family. The only problem was that his above-ground pool didn't have a deck. That meant he wouldn't be able to see his young son swimming unless he was standing up. That was going to get real old real fast during the summer. So he decided to take matters into his own hands. Up next, the beginning of his month-long project. The DIY deck started with the man drilling huge holes into the ground near the pool. His neighbors were a bit confused about this process, especially when he began to finish the holes with his bare hands. No one could blame the neighbors for being concerned. The guy never explained his project, and all of a sudden, one morning he's turning his garden into Swiss cheese. Hopefully there was a method to his madness. A few days and a lot of holes later, he brought in a couple of long wooden beams. The addition of the beams made it clear that he was building something and not making giant holes to plant some bizarre seeds in. Still, no one knew what he was building. He began placing the beams in the holes, pouring cement over them, and spreading gravel down so everything would stay dry and not rot. Keep watching to learn what the next step in the DIY project. After the beams were set, the guy began building until an outline of the project came to light. There was now even what looked like the start of a staircase on one side. Apparently these stairs were the final clue the neighbors needed to realize he was building a deck for his above-ground pool. They couldn't fault him. Having a deck eye level with the pool would make lounging and watching his son a whole lot easier. Up next, the guy had a little helper. With a huge project like this, it's always nice to have an extra pair of hands, no matter how tiny. In this case, the man received help from none other than his young son. Of course, the little one couldn't do any of the heavy lifting or use power tools, but just being there for his dad and helping when he could probably meant the world to the older guy. This project was in part for his son after all. What had started as confusion quickly turned into excitement among the neighbors. Once they began to see the bones of the pool deck, they were curious to see what the resulting project was going to look like. The beginning stages were already looking good. Although they weren't helping with construction, the neighbors were there watching since the holes were being drilled into the ground. So to say they were a bit anxious for the final reveal would be an understatement. With the bones in place and the stairs underway, it was time to start building an essential part of the deck, the floor. His family was going to be using the deck a lot, so he wanted to make sure it was as sturdy as possible. He did so by adding multiple support beams to increase stability. Then he added numerous horizontal beams. They were the key feature because they'd be holding the weight of the lawn furniture and the family. As with most outdoor construction projects, the winter months halted any progress the man hoped to make on his deck. It wasn't worth his safety if the wooden beams became icy or if he wasn't able to build properly because of the elements. It looked like he was taking a break until the weather warmed back up. Not that he minded. Taking a break meant spending more time with his family, the whole reason he was undergoing this DIY project. Up next, the weather warmed up and he was back outside taking measurements. Winter didn't last forever, and once the springtime rolled around, he was ready to get back to his project. Before the snow and ice hit, he had ensured that the deck was durable and sturdy. So now it was time to make sure all the measurements were accurate. If they weren't, not only would the planks of a deck look bad, but it could later lead to safety concerns. It was time to take careful measurements and begin setting the floorboards. Coming up soon is the finished product. The planks fit in place effortlessly. The surface was level, there were no gaps between the floorboards, and the screws didn't seem to be straining the wood. Everything was fitting together like a well-cut puzzle. The floor was finished. Now it was time to put the rest of the staircase together so they could easily get to the raised platform. His neighbors were very impressed with how well everything fell into place. If the neighbors learned anything from this man, it's that dedication and perseverance can get you a long way. It might have taken a long time to build, but the man is now the proud owner of a personalized pool deck, a structure that he can enjoy with his family. And because that family included a young son, he made safety his #1 priority. He was sure to include durable planks and support beams, as well as industrial bolts for the corners. The man's DIY pool deck looked amazing. It was designed very well, and it was also safe for anyone who ventured onto it. He even went out and bought a few lawn chairs so people would be able to lounge and not worry about hurting their backs or the wooden planks. For an extra security measure, he even added a pulley latch to prevent children and dogs from venturing onto the deck without an adult present. It's amazing that the man was able to accomplish this transformation in less than a year. What started off as a plot of land that held nothing more than weeds had turned into a lovely deck that he and his family will be able to enjoy for years to come. And while his neighbors were skeptical about his plans in the beginning, there's no doubt in their mind that he had a vision since day one. Up next, another man decides to take on a DIY project after his beloved dog passes away. After his dog passed away, this man didn't really know what to do with himself. He wanted to stay busy. The garden he used to play in with his best friend looked very empty, so he decided a DIY project was in order, something that would keep his mind off his loss. He decided to build a koi pond on the plot of land, but he got halfway through the project when he came up with a new idea altogether. His plan to build a koi pond came to an end after the birth of his son. Although it would have looked very nice in the garden, the man decided he wanted to build something that the entire family, especially his son, would be able to enjoy. So he recruited a friend to help him begin his new project. Although the plan is somewhat the same, the project as a whole was entirely different than a pond. Coming up soon, the end result. He and his friend started the project during the summer months, so it was grueling work underneath the hot sun. But the result was going to be completely worth it. Even though it was a lot of work, he was determined to build this backyard oasis for his son. He was positive that the little guy was going to love the finished product. So once the filtration system was in place, he poured the concrete and was ready for the next step. After working all summer long, the finished product was finally ready to be revealed. Instead of the koi pond, he decided to build a pool that looked as though it was a natural water feature in the garden. The result was the perfect addition to the garden, one that he hopes his son would love to swim in. He was able to take his grief and use it to build something for his family. His pooch would have been proud. Up next, instead of clearing his garden, this man has the urge to build something instead. Terry Meredith, a 65-year-old man living in Gloucester, England, had a creative spark one day. He was planning on clearing his garden for a nicer view when he decided it would be better to build something. The former electrician was surprised by his desire to build a DIY project, and he never imagined his creation was going to turn out so well. This was the beginning of Terry's project to build the coolest treehouse ever. The project began after Terry decided not to chop down the tall willow tree in his yard. The tree had grown so large that it was blocking the view of the sunset. He wanted to take a few feet off the top so he could see the nature's beauty again. However, when he climbed to the top of the tree, he was awestruck by the view before him. That's when it hit him. Instead of cutting the tree down, he was going to build on top of it. 8 months and about 8,000 pounds later, Terry had a luxurious treehouse sitting up in his willow tree. The finished house was concealed by the tree's branches, with only the staircase visible at the base. Inside, there's cushioned seating, a ton of windows, and a working barbecue in the center for either a picnic or to warm the treehouse on cold nights. It's the perfect place for Terry and his friends and family to come and relax while enjoying the gorgeous Welsh countryside. Terry isn't the only one that's been enjoying the treehouse, though. He was gracious enough to open his willow tree up to local people. It's been used for birthday parties and a rest stop for people running or walking through the area. It must be nice for Terry to see other people enjoying his hard work as much as he is. We wouldn't be surprised if some of the locals asked him to build a luxury treehouse in their yard. Up next, this DIYer built something for his dogs. Who says DIY projects are solely for a person's enjoyment? Aaron Franks of Pennsylvania decided to do something nice for his beloved dogs, Tessa, Bruno, Cooper, and Mia. What did he do for them? He built what can only be described as a doggy mansion. The project cost a few $1,000s and took around 2 years to construct. But the 3-story dog playhouse, complete with a pool, lounge spots, and electricity, was well worth it. Up next, the finished product that has everything a dog could ask for. Frank isn't delusional. The first person he has to thank for putting up with his long hours is his family, especially his wife. But the dogs are also part of the family, so she understood his desire to build something nice for them. The 3-story playhouse features an above-ground pirate-themed pool, swings, and even security cameras so the family can keep an eye on the dogs when they're playing. All it's missing is a flat-screen TV. During an interview about the dogs, Aaron said, "I feed them, I water them, and walk them every day. They get their exercise and stuff, but I guess at the end of the day, I just felt like it wasn't enough. I felt like this would be a good way to show my love for them. It makes me feel good that I could do that for them." According to Aaron, it wasn't a hardship to build the doggy mansion. It was a labor of love. After seeing the finished product, it's clear that Aaron has a whole lot of love for his 4 pooches. Everything was taken care of, down to the last fire hydrant detail. The ironic part is that Aaron has said that he has no idea what the finished product was going to look like. He just kept building and hoped for the best. Well, it looks like his hard work and creativity were well worth it. His dogs love their new playhouse.